Can we make our way to the next slide? So this project will alleviate drainage issues along West Colfax, as I mentioned. We'll also be providing new pavement. So from curb to curb, we'll be redoing the street, repaving, curbs, inlets, landscaping, all of that along Stewart Street. There will be new curb ramps on the south side of Colfax as part of our project. And
looks like Lauren froze. Let's give her just a moment to come back. I think Zoom is acting a little funky this evening.
Chris, can you hear me? This is Ryan.
Hi, Ryan. Yes, yeah, I can hear
Hi.
you.
I can probably take over a little bit until
Yeah.
she comes back. But as you know, I think the main point of this that's important is the way it's moving up and the cadence of the construction. So each portion, after they finish, they'll even it out. And so a brief repaving. And then when we finally get to the top in October, then they'll do a full repaving, and it'll be all brand new inside. So there's going to be some impacts, of course, if it's happening on the block between, First Wells and 13th, and then moving north. They will close down parking for the most part, with a couple of exceptions, and the parking then will move along to the side streets. We are going to try and limit that impact as much as possible. And if you sign up for our newsletters, you'll always know where parking is available and where it isn't. The full detour of Dry Gulch Trail, sorry, if you play Frisbee golf, those two holes will be closed until they're out of the gulch, and then they move forward. So by March, that pathway will be opened. And next slide.
Excuse me,
And then here's
Nora, can you would you be able to show us on the map which areas you were just talking about?
Oh, sure. We go back, share it. So yeah, so we start at the bottom, right at Dry Gulch. And so that first segment until March is just between Stewart and just between Wells and 13th. And then the next 3 months between 13th and 14th. And then the final stretch is between 14th and Colfax. And then by October, they'll just be finishing up those segments.
But the parking that you were talking about, that we will have to utilize while that construction project's being worked on.
Oh yes, so the map is in creation because right now they're the only parking limitations are along West Wells, where they are starting on the construction. So every month we will issue a parking map that will show you exactly which areas are going to be closed. But right now there's no limitations except for down there on Wells.
Okay.
Does that make sense? That answer your question? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And Lauren is back. Yeah.
Okay. Then I am.
I apologize for that. Thank you, Ryan, for covering. I noticed there was just a question in the chat about, does this address drainage issues on Colfax, both north and south sides of the avenue? And it kind of, so what this project does is it takes there's an existing storm main in Colfax, so an existing pipe in Colfax, and we're intercepting it and directing the flows south. So we're basically creating more capacity in the pipe. So it'll really, wherever there's an existing inlet in Colfax, it'll help because it'll add a little more capacity to the system underground. Does that make sense? So it's not really regrading Colfax at all. It's it's creating more capacity in the system that's already underground. Perfect. Okay. Should we can go to the next slide then, I think, Chris.
Okay, great.
So this is our contact info. So the Stewart Street Storm at denvergov.org, you can email that with any questions or concerns about the project. And if you want to get the weekly newsletter, you can also email that email address and then we'll get you on the list, or you can call the phone number here. And then there's a QR code and that'll take you to the project website, and that project website has the same map if you would like to look at that again, and the schedule for phasing. And it has all the contact info as well.
Thanks, Lauren. Thanks, Ryan. Yeah. Just want to open it up to the attendees to see if you have any questions, comments, feedback for the project team. And for those of you who might not be as familiar with the project, Lauren and Ryan, do you mind putting kind of the website URL as well to the DenverGov page in the chat for folks?
I think you should be able to use that bit.ly/Stewart Street Storm. That should work.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions? No. All right. Well, thank you so much to the Stewart Street Storm team, and certainly reach out if you have any questions. Next, I'll be handing it over to Karen Good with Dottie's community design team, and she's the specialty services supervisor to talk about the West Colfax pedestrian and transit improvements project. And with that, I'll hand it over to you, Karen.
Thanks so much. Please do tell me if I freeze like Lauren did, and I'll turn my camera off and hopefully you will still be able to hear me. We generally curse Zoom tonight. It's been acting a little funky. So this is just a super quick update for everyone. We're really excited to announce that we have gotten our notice to proceed for the pedestrian and transit improvements project. So wanted to give you a bit of a heads up that you might start seeing some survey folks out there doing some of the preliminary work. And we are looking at, and we do have the next slide, Chris, should have our high-level timeline there. So we're, as I said, really excited that we are kicking off. We've got survey folks that'll be out there, and you'll see some actual work in the street in the next month or two. And as I said, starting things over the holidays is a little challenging. We'll have more information for you in the coming weeks with a bit more detail as we're working through things with the contractor, and there are always some fun things with cost escalations in the environment we're in now. So we're working through a few things, and we'll get back with everyone with more detail as we know more detail about, in particular, some of the any construction phasing detours, anything like that would impact folks on the street. We're not there quite yet, but we will keep you in the loop. And for that, we will likely be providing those updates via email, not and some other communications, not waiting for the CAG. If we have any additional information, we'll reach out to folks. So thanks, and big hoorah to Mukhtar and Rolando, who've been working behind the scenes on this to get everything moving forward. We're really excited to provide those safety improvements and really start making some big changes.
Hi, Karen. I have a question. The large sidewalk ramp segment corridor, is that do you have any more like details on that as far as like the design of that?
I don't right now, but we can follow up. If anyone does have specific questions, we can follow up with them after.
I'm just
So
curious, is that already underway this January?
the project, as I said, the survey team is out there doing some work. The design has been completed. So if folks have detailed design questions, we can follow up with them after, but the design has been completed.
Yeah, we would just like to review it since we're a property that's on Colfax, and I'm sure anybody else who's right on Colfax would like that too. So that's great that you make it available. We appreciate that.
Yeah,
What's
we'll follow up with folks on for folks that have detailed questions. We'll follow up one-on-one.
Thanks everyone. Sorry that my Zoom client crashed once again. So I think that it might be just one of those evenings. And Heidi, I see that your hand's up.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, gosh, so I'm looking at this and this this project has been highly anticipated for, I think I can almost say years now. And there is a lot that I remember from the approved plan involving bulb outs and medians that are going to need to be dug up for water and plants and trees and transportation signaling for buses. And I'm just looking at this one page here, and gosh, it feels like maybe we're not really talking about the same project. If we're starting this stuff now, I mean, I know we've been asking for more detail for probably a year now as to, I mean, this project's going to be huge, I would imagine, I hope, as if it's being executed the way it was presented to us in May of 2022. So I would like to request a lot more detail to each of these phases and what the impacts are going to be to business and to, we're very concerned about what's going to happen on 14th and 17th and how we're going to move through. And this one page is, I'm sorry, I'm not sorry, but I am disappointed with this. So I would like to know more about when we're going to get more detail. This is starting now and we don't know anything. We have not been updated as to, and then all of a sudden it just is. And so I'm just really frustrated with seeing this and the lack of communication we've been getting over the last year. And yeah, so I mean, are we executing the project the way it was planned, or is this, I'm just really confused at this point. So I'll just let you guys take it over and see if you can answer any of that for me.
Karen.
Sure, Heidi, thank you. And I appreciate your concern and your frustration. We are, as I said, we are really excited to have notice to proceed, but notice to proceed doesn't mean that we are out there digging the street up the next day. We have a bunch of work to do with the selected contractor to conduct survey, to work through phasing and details. And that's why we don't have more, that just happened. So that's why we don't have more information now, but we will be getting that together and getting that, updating the website, reaching out to folks and getting more information to you as we have it. We simply just don't have all of that at hand right now. If this meeting was a couple weeks later, we'd be in good shape, but we know that there was some frustration at the rescheduling of the last CAG when we didn't have information yet. So we wanted to make sure that we were here and didn't push it off again. We just don't have as much information as I know as we would like to have, and as much information as you would like at this particular date, but we will have it very soon. And we will get that to you and all of the stakeholders as soon as we can.
And just kind of coming back, I see a few comments, and then I'll get to the folks with the hands raised. So it looks like Tony and Irene in the chat are saying, echoing Heidi's comment. And then Irene's also asking if there's a drawing of the final plan that can be accessed.
We are working on that and getting all of that finalized so that we can get that up on the webpage as soon as possible.
Okay.
And just, can I just,
Does that count for?
Sure. I don't know where we're
Yeah,
going.
let's
You
go
wanna run?
Heidi, and then I saw I believe Dan, I saw you unmute, and then James over there. So let's go with Heidi.
just real quick. So I thought that the funding for CDOT that CDOT put into this was expiring at the end of this year. So yeah, is that not true, or?
We can follow up with you on funding details, but the funding that we had planned to use is all still in place and it is all good.
Okay.
We don't have a change to the amount of funding that we have to complete the project. So CDOT's money is the money that we had planned on having is still available, and we're all the work that we're doing is meeting the criteria there. Does that answer your question, Heidi?
I mean, I guess so. Yeah, I'll leave it to other people.
Okay. Thanks, Heidi.
Let's go over to Dan.
Hi, everybody. Happy New Year, everybody. And now we're right back in it. So anyway, I wanted to say, I sort of just to follow up on this conversation a little bit. I mean, I think that if the thing that I think that would be good, and I understand that there are always going to be challenges managing a project of, scale, is that we're just sort of kept in the loop as changes are made and decisions are made, because I mean they all are things that we spent quite a bit of time, and I think this alludes to Heidi was alluding to, there was a lot of community engagement around this process that sort of delivered a result that was not everybody, it was there were compromises, but that were made in the spirit of compromise in order to get to the end goal of an improved pedestrian and transit environment.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it would be really helpful to have the ability to engage as decision making might be made to that would impact anything that would in any kind of way materially alter what we would have expected, people especially who were involved in those engagement exercises, and I mean long periods of time of engagement.
Absolutely.
And then the second thing is I'm working, I think Karen, you might know this, is that I'm also working now a bit with Federal Boulevard bid,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just been and I came like sort of right as that project there, a similar less in scale, but also very disruptive project to the businesses. And I didn't have a chance I didn't know any, I mean, I sort of went in blind and it was really too late to do anything. I don't want that to happen on West Colfax, because there's really no reason for it to happen, in that sort of like me and my team, to the extent, I mean, that I have a team, it's people who I work with, like Ann Kuchermeister, who are planners, and can sort of it would really be helpful to review, for example, the traffic control plans and things like that, and schedule, so that for example, on Federal, just to give you an example of what didn't go well and what could have been better, with some signage. So it's not like they were huge complicated things. It's just having some eyeballs from the standpoint of the bit that really have been on the street with the businesses, being able to see those things and anticipate problems, and so as to prevent them from happening, and then there's like a reaction that has to be made in urgent time that is frustrating for people, and could be just to make it more smooth.
Great. That's a great suggestion, Dan. And I think that's something that, again, we have this space and time where survey and some other fundamental work is done, and that gives us a little breathing room to do some things like that. And that's also when
Sure.
we're working through those traffic control plans. So
Yeah.
the project team can work to insert some informational review for you and your team on those. I believe, I don't want to fully promise the team away, but I believe we can look to find a space where we can get, and sorry, I'm pointing with my pen as I've been taking notes, but where we can look at where that traffic control plan is reviewed and meets all the required standards, and then an informational review and awareness for you all, so that we can then see what we can do to optimize that for the businesses and maximize benefit and minimize impact, which is what we're always trying to do. And appreciate
Great.
your feedback and working with us on the federal project as well.
Thanks,
Sure.
Dan.
Yeah. I mean, the businesses were pretty on top of that too. So that was good. But
Yeah.
Awesome.
Good.
Over to you, James.
Thank you. And thank you for taking the time to share with us tonight. First, I've got two things. So the first thing is my friend Jerry, who is here, I think accidentally sent me a question that he meant for y'all, which is just, will the construction along Colfax be done in segments, or will it be all under construction for the whole time? Jerry owns a business. It's the best brewery in the world. I don't know. Is it too early to call? I'm not sure. Yeah, you got to go. Seed stock.
Okay,
Yes.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, everyone has to go to seed stock now that I've said that, and if you haven't already. But the question is, will it be done in segments?
You know, I heart seed stock too. I will fully admit that I am not the project manager, and I think some of the elements are still being worked out on how exactly we're phasing and what have you. But in general, and that's where we want to take the time to work with our contractor. Different contractors have different approaches. So that's where, if this meeting was a couple weeks later, we'd be like, oh, here's the segments, we're doing this, and then we're doing that, and here's the plan. And we're still working through that. But generally, we try to, again, localize our impacts so that we're not everywhere all the time. Dan is familiar with that from the work on federal. We try to make sure that we are focusing on one area, minimizing impact, working with businesses. Say if there is a curb ramp that affects business access, that we are working with that business one-on-one to say, are you closed any days of the week? If you're not closed any day of the week, are there times of the day or times of the week that are slower? And here's how we're going to get people to you. Does that work? Or should they come in from this side or from this side for the alternate access and what have you? So that's something that is coming soon, like that detailed work with business owners and property owners. But particularly with business owners, to understand how we can, to Dan's point, provide signage that makes it clear how to access those businesses, but also to work with them to minimize the impact. If you're a brewery, you're a little less busy in the morning. Maybe you're getting deliveries then, and Friday night is probably one of the worst times. And I think if I recall correctly, does Seed Stock have a run club on a Wednesday night or something? But, figuring out all the special events, the trivia, and trying to avoid those. Monday night. Okay.
That's the trick with seed stock. They got something every day of the week.
Well,
Get on down there, everybody.
Right. And that's where we would try to look at, can we do things early in the morning, and, how are we dealing with access, that is it better for it to come from the side street or from Colfax, and how we make sure that we are really communicating with the business so that we're providing what they need and impacting their business as little as possible. There will be some realities of work that needs to be done that will impact access, but we'll always provide alternate access and keep the business informed. And to Dan's point, providing signage that says like, you can't get there from here, but you can get there from here. And we also highly recommend that businesses, which I'm sure Seat Stock already does have a pretty vibrant presence with either an email list or folks looking at what food truck is there through their Instagram or their webpage or what have you. But we'll get you information so that you can post that to either your socials or web or email lists and what have you. And we just don't have that quite yet. But great question. And Seat Stock, we love you, and you will definitely be, Jerry. You will definitely be, one of the businesses that will be coordinating with everyone. But that's a big one where you have a lot of foot traffic.
Thanks, Karen. We have quite a few comments that I just want to touch on one, and then we'll go over to Tony, who has his hand raised, and then kind of make our way down the comments that are showing up in the chat as well. So this comment is from Irene Glazer, and it is, how are we still working on that? And I think it's the final plans, if it is supposed to begin this month. I do think that's, yeah, can you?
Sure. So we are working with the selected contractor because each contractor may approach the implementation, the construction, slightly differently. So there are things that we do in terms of the design is done, we go out to contractors and we figure out, we hire one, and then we fine tune with that contractor as to how we are going to implement the work. So that is where we don't start doing detailed detour plans until we're working with a contractor, because they might want to start at the north end to be more, not the north, like the north side or the south side or the east or the west, and for efficiency. And different companies have different preferences there. And then we work through that with them to, again, make sure that their approach is minimizing impact and maximizing benefit. And so there are just some things that can't happen until we have a contractor on board.
All right, thanks, Karen. And then we have Tony and then James again, and then we'll do the current comments, and then we'll move on to the next portion of the agenda.
And Chris, can I mention, if anyone does not have their question answered, we can certainly follow up. Please put things in chat and we can follow up after, either collectively or one-on-one.
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks, Karen. All right. Tony, did you put your hand down?
Yeah, just for a moment. Wanted to ask real quick and I apologize if this is out of scope by any measure, but I was wondering, is there any appetite for red light cameras or speed cameras along Colfax, or is there any talk about it? And if the answer to either is no, how might somebody advocate for it?
So I would say this is sort of off the top of my head. I don't believe there are any of those within the scope. You could put a 311 request in for that, and then that would be analyzed by our area engineer, and they would get back to you with feedback on, whether it meets the criteria, how it could be done, and they would probably also need to coordinate with our Denver Police Department. But that would be the best way to get a bit, to put that request in through 311, and then it'll be fully analyzed and you'll get an answer. It's not a one-day answer. That'll take a little bit of time because there's a bit of work involved in that, but that is the best way to advocate for that, and also working with your council office.
Awesome, thank you.
Absolutely. And I think, Chris, are we going back to James? I don't hear Chris. So James, go for it.
Okay, and I think by answering my question, you might answer a question that Heidi put in the chat. And if that's wrong, Heidi, you can lambast me in the chat. No, but
Heidi would
so-
never do
never. Not publicly.
Oh no, wait, James, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Sorry.
I can hear you now.
Okay, great. So we were biking to Seedstock, and there was a crash on Colfax, which redirected, everybody, rather than wait to get around the fire truck or whatever, they just all decided to pile onto 14th and floor it so they could get home, get to Sheridan or whatever.
Mhm.
Point is, a disruption on Colfax caused a substantial increase in danger for all of us who were not on bikes. And as Tony indicates in the chat, it's not uncommon on 14th. Pretty much anytime there's a disruption on Colfax, 14th becomes Colfax 2.0, which is not great. And so I'm wondering, and it looks like Heidi was wondering in the chat as well, whether there was consideration for safety improvements along 14th and 17th or I guess 16th, to as a catchment, as it becomes a catchment for all these people who will be diverted, to ensure that their safety, even a temporary traffic calming, right? Permanent would be great, but something to make sure that folks are not, that's a neighborhood street. It's not Colfax, it's a neighborhood street.
Right.
So is there any thought there?
Let me look into that. I don't have an answer, yes or no. So let me look into that and we'll get back to you. It's a great question.
Thank you. Please, I appreciate that.
And
Thanks,
when you see
James.
me looking down, I swear I'm taking notes, and I know we have the meeting recorded, but I'm much better at following through on what I have written down than rewatching a meeting that I was in because so there you go.
Awesome. And apologies, my Zoom crashed again. So this just seems
Sorry,
to be the issue of the evening. But my chat log got wiped out with that crash. So if anyone has the chat history up for those
Sure.
few other questions that we can kind of
I think I
address, that'd
can
be
pull
great.
it up.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I'm just gonna take a minute to cruise through the beginning to the at least 6:15. I have Dan's. I don't know if there was anything before. Ryan Lewis, Stewart Street. Okay, Stewart Street. Echoing Heidi's comments, Tony, Irene's question about the final plan. Sorry, I just am doing a quick perusal so we don't so that we don't miss anything. And apologies, I'm just doing a quick breeze through. I think there's questions about the plans and questions about any additional detail on budget constraints, and we don't have additional detail now, but that's again something we'll have in the coming weeks, and we'll keep folks posted.
Wonderful.
And if I missed anything big, please pop your hand up, but I think we do have some other agenda items to hit. Is that right, Chris?
Yeah, just one other one. And I see one last comment. I always try to read these for when the video gets posted to YouTube because that's not part of the video recording. So this one's from Dan, and the comment is, I think there was a look at 14th as part of a shorter term improvement about 2 years ago, but not much was implemented out of it. A relook might be merited given diversions that are likely once the improvements are being built and later when it is in place.
Yep. Great point, Stan. Thank you.
Yep. And then
James, I don't know if James is still on, but thank you. He said
Yeah.
he had to go, but thank you if he's still there.
Thanks for joining, James. And one more, Tony said bumps or dips on 14th would be awesome. Heard as well.
Okay.
All right.
Well, thanks all.
Yeah, thank you so much, Karen. Appreciate it. So for the other folks on this call, for context, the West Area CAG started off meeting monthly, and then because of kind of a dip in project-related information and engagement opportunities, as well as kind of feedback that we collected earlier this in 2023. Actually, we did make the decision to try out quarterly CAG meetings, kind of interspersed with various pop-up events and more kind of in-person engagement that is kind of more like showing up to the community where they're at. So I wanted to go over those engagements that we did do this year, and then just lead a little discussion in the last 10 minutes here where we can discuss kind of what's working, what needs improvement, and what information would be helpful kind of moving forward, because that's a big topic this evening. So in 2023, we had 2 virtual CAG meetings, one in February and one in March. The February meeting, Stewart Street stormwater improvements and bike and pedestrian safety, as well as West Colfax pedestrian and transit improvement projects and West Colfax Villa Park action plan was discussed. And then March 2nd, that meeting, we discussed the new volume-based pricing rollout, which is the new compost and associated fee for the volume of solid waste that's picked up. And then we kind of circled back about the CAG engagement strategies and for sponsored events that we hosted on August 2nd, we hosted a pop-up project event at Paco Sanchez Park. I know that I saw quite a few of you there, so thanks for coming to that. It's always kind of fun to have more presence with Dottie project teams and engineers face-to-face with community, and hopefully that allows a little bit more one-on-one conversation. And then on September 23rd, we hosted a day with Dottie at Ruby Hill Park, which is a little outside of this geographic area, but we did extend an invite to the listserv that we had, and that was all Dottie projects, programs and services that wanted to could show up there, and the community was invited to come out and learn more about this department. It is a very large department. It's the 3rd largest department in the city, and we have very diverse and very unique services that a lot of folks are interested in and are passionate about. So we had that as another sponsored event. And right there, I'll pause and just, I see Irene, you have your hand up. And just give you some.
Hi.
Hi.
Chris.
Hi,
Thank
Irene.
you for all you do and all you're trying to do for us and for our neighborhood.
Yeah.
I just have to just voice my frustrations with the lack of any answers for those of us who've been working on this for going on 6 years now. And now we have this timeline and we still don't have any written plan of what's actually going to be happening on Colfax. We, from the May meeting, there were some drawings and things. And, tonight I thought that that's why we were all here, is to get information on a timeline of when things are going to start, of what it's going to look like. And we've gotten nothing. So I'm just wondering, and we all work best on deadlines. So I'm just wondering, what is the deadline for us to have an actual written plan of what's going to be happening? Because if you're sending surveyors out there, then it sounds like there is some sort of plan of what's happening. And why are we not privy to that?
Yeah, and I think, Karen, do you want to speak to that? And then we can kind of continue on with this slide. And then after this slide, we will kind of have some space for some of these more general questions again.
Sure. So as I said, we're working through some details with the selected consultant, and when we have that wrapped up, we will be providing some more information as soon as we can. And I appreciate everyone's frustration, but we just don't have that quite yet ready for everyone. So again, we'll get that to you as soon as possible.
Well, can we have a date?
As soon as possible.
That's not a date.
It is not, because I don't have one. I'm sorry.
It's been 6 years that we've been working on this.
I realize that, and I appreciate your frustration. I could tell you a date, but I can't. I don't have one, so I'm not just going to make one up and tell you I can do something by a certain date when I don't know. So the best I can tell you is as soon as possible, and we will provide more information as soon as possible.
All right. I know that's probably not a terribly satisfying response, Irene, and I apologize that we're not able to kind of give that right now, and appreciate your kind of your patience. I know it's,
and I really appreciate everyone's frustration, and I apologize. But
I mean, yeah, we're taking time out of our night. We don't get paid for this. We're here on our own volition, and we've been very patient. And I think to bring 30 people together on a meeting and not have any answers whatsoever is pretty unacceptable.
heard, and I think the feedback that we'll be taking back and really looking at is that kind of timely and information sharing and making sure that we're using your time well on these meetings. So that's definitely a top priority, and we'll be focusing on that here moving forward. So I'm gonna finish up this slide, and then Heidi, do you want to? Is your comment related, or?
Related to, so are we at the point, are we giving feedback on this kind of schedule moving forward, or do you want to go to your next slide, and then I can chime in whenever?
Yeah, let me just go
Okay.
over the community events for folks who might be kind of sight impaired and who are watching this. So the other events that we had as part of the CAG was I attended the April 11th and May 9th We Can RNO general meeting. One of those meetings, I gave an update on this West Colfax pedestrian improvement project, and appreciate that kind of invitation. And I'll be back this Tuesday for the next meeting. And then on May 13th, we had the West Colfax walkabout, where Rolando Melgoza and Rolando is part of the community design team and is the community designer for this area. Met with folks with the What We Can Mobility Committee and some other organizations to walk around West Colfax and get an understanding of kind of the existing conditions. And then in July, we had a presentation to the Sun Valley Community Coalition RNO meeting. And finally, in August, the West Colfax Neighborhood Festival, we were invited to share some project information. And we did our first newsletter this past fall, which we're looking to continue moving forward. So just a quick recap on the engagement activities to date, and would love to kind of open up the floor to feedback. I know that the quarterly meeting cadence, we wanted to make sure that we're checking back in because as stated before, this is really a model that we're kind of experimenting with and figuring out what's working, what's not working. So certainly open to feedback on how it's going. So with that, Heidi, I see your hands raised. So go right ahead.
Thank you. And yeah, I like the idea of a newsletter. I think that's going to be helpful. I think that kind of speaks to what Irene was talking about. And, the CAG meetings, it sounds like were created to talk about big projects, right, that are happening in West Colfax. And there are, to us, a lot of big projects that are still ongoing, federal BRT, the Clover, this project, right? That's sort of like this hurry up and wait for years. And then, and I think that the frustration, at least, I can speak to my frustration, is that the communication is not consistent, and there isn't a place for us to talk about. We've got highways coming. We're surrounded by highways. Colfax and Sixth and Federal and Sheridan, and I know that that's not. The Dottie, my understanding is manages a lot of, the lights and the this and the that with those, and certainly has control over the streets that aren't the highways. But for our experience, we live in a very dangerous place, dangerous to walk to parks, dangerous to walk to schools. We, to Irene's point, we spend, it feels like a part-time job advocating for safety in our community. And we have a lot that we, the walk that we did in March, we haven't heard anything about the concerns that we brought up. And those things can be, if we were in a regular communication about, we could come up with an agenda. We thought we were going to get answers about those things today. And it's frustrating to ask these questions and be asking these questions for many, many, many months, and some cases years, and to finally get together to think we're going to get answers and to be told nothing. So it perpetuates the frustration, and it also speaks to trust. And so when we have these kinds of these concerns coming up around, like, what's going to happen to our community when this work starts, the trust hasn't been built there to know that we are going to be kept safe, and that our concerns are being listened to when we're told, this, it's not like being this follow up, it's always, I'm not going to say always, but it is very common for us to be told that we'll get back to you with answers, and it is very common to not get those answers. So I'm not sure if it's meeting regularly so we can voice these concerns and come to some level of communication and be in relationship with each other so that we can build that trust. The CAG meetings, I think, are the only place really sometimes where we can get together and talk about these things. And I just, Dottie manages a lot, and I can appreciate that. There's water, there's waste, there's compost, there's our streets, there's our bike lanes, there's a lot in there. And there's a lot of responsibility. And with that, if we aren't in good relationship with a department that's as large as it is and that handles as much as it does, it leads, it's not good, and it doesn't end in good results. And it's too important. More people, we haven't lowered the number of people that are dying on our streets. And so it's hard to trust that they're going to be results when we don't see them. So I just wanted to put that out there, and I don't, for conversation with all of us.
I hear you, and I think that, we'll definitely be debriefing this conversation and the feedback kind of that you've raised and others have raised with the team. And we always strive to be timely and authoritative, and trust really is what
Chris, I don't know. Can anyone else hear Chris?
No, cannot hear Chris.
No, I think he froze.
Oh, no. Well, I don't want to try to presuppose what he was saying, but I know that trust is really critical, and we appreciate your comments and concerns related to trust, and that's something that we will work on. Sherry, it looks like you're the host now, and oh, Chris is back. Chris, you're muted. I think you're back. There we go.
Had to get one more crash in for the evening. Apologies, everyone. So all of that is to say heard, Heidi, and we'll be coming back with more information. And Irene, I see your hand is raised, and
Chris,
am I frozen?
You're back. You're back. You froze for a sec, but you're back.
Okay, something's going on with the city's network tonight, I think. Irene, do you have a comment before we kind of wrap up and talk about our next meeting?
No, sorry, Chris, I don't. I'm good.
Oh, that's okay. All right. Anyone else? One last kind of final comment, feedback. All right. Well, with that, I think certainly coming into the meeting this evening, we want to make sure that we're present and providing a little bit more consistent information. So we're going to have an ad hoc, so kind of like a one-time meeting next month on February 1st. It's a Thursday evening again at 6 p.m. And we'll have information from, we'll have CDOT attending to present on the Federal Bus Rapid Transit Project. And we'll also have the Denver Connector team coming and sharing some more information about a very kind of innovative community service that they're working on here in the area. And then let's see. And then we'll also try to have some more updates on the West Colfax Pad project. Obviously, that is outside of my kind of control, but we heard that very loud and clear this evening. So just really appreciate everybody's time. And with that, I hope everybody has a great rest of your evening, and I appreciate you all, and see you in February. Bye.
Thanks so much, Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, see you soon.
Thank you.